Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Kofer, and on behalf of Choice and ACRL, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Cutting Edge Solutions, Moving Libraries Forward in the Digital Age, which is sponsored by Ex Libris, a ProQuest company. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from Choice and ACRL that addresses new ideas and developments of interest to the academic library community. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. All of the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so no need to worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. We're using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to ask questions of our presenters. We do expect many questions and we likely will not have time to get to all of them, so we apologize in advance for that. But that being said, we'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation. So please do type your questions into the Q&A module as they occur to you. Also note that there is closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Also note that we're recording today's program and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archive version. And with that, we're ready to get started. So I will pass things over to Mike.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sabrina. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. I'm Mike Richins, Director of Product Management at Ex Libris, and I want to note my sincere appreciation of your attendance today and hope we can provide you with information that will prove to be interesting and useful in your own practice and work environments. I also want to thank ACRL and Choice for working with us to schedule these events. So joining me today are two great colleagues, Greg and Judith. I'm excited to be presenting alongside with them both. They both have extensive experience and knowledge on the topics we are covering today. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Maybe over to Greg first.
Hey, everybody. I'm Greg. I'm Associate Director for Access and Digital Services at University of St. Thomas in St. Paul and Minneapolis here in Minnesota.
And hi, everyone. My name is Judith Fraenkel. I'm Director of Product Management at Ex Libris. Thank you for having us today.
Right. Thank you both. So here's what we have planned for today. If we can move to the agenda slide. To kick us off, Greg, our guest speaker, will present on the topic at hand, discussing how St. Thomas is moving forward in the digital age through a number of user-focused services supported by a variety of technologies. Next, we'll have an open discussion on an exciting and critical topic, the future of library resource sharing. We will then shift focus to another topic that has generated a lot of interest and discussion as of late, controlled digital lending. Finally, we'll end on Q&A, so please ask questions over the course of the presentation through the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to answer either during the presentation or in the Q&A section. I also want to note that sometime after today's session, you will receive an email from me with a link to the recording, which will be posted on the Ex Libris YouTube page. So before I hand it over to Greg, just a few comments from me on today's discussions in relation to the experiences I've had working in and with libraries over the past 20 years, and especially over the past 2 years. So how we provide services to our users is more important than ever. There's an increasingly vast and rich set of collections held by libraries around the world, and access to these collections is critical. There are hurdles, old and new, around getting materials into the hands of our users, including staffing, budgets, staff workflows, issues with technologies, and integration between the platforms we use. As we all know, library users are used to on-demand and quick access to products through commercial services, and there can be a gap between these services and their experiences using the library. Library solutions and technologies should help us meet these expectations both for our users and for library staff. Our users' experiences should be transparent and intuitive with better visibility into all aspects of the services we provide. Staff workflows should be efficient and easily customizable with intuitive user interfaces facilitating an engaging environment where staff can focus on the tasks and processes that are key to maintaining excellent service. Looking to the future, it is key we connect as a library community in new ways, leveraging new approaches and technologies to provide and maintain access in a way that is cost and staff time effective. And it is evident through my discussions with libraries, consortia, other partners and stakeholders that we have an incredible opportunity as a community to transform our services in wonderful and meaningful ways. And so on that note, I would like to pass the session over to Greg Argo. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. I'm gonna get control here and start moving the slides. Okay, so I've already introduced myself. You know who I am. We're talking about cutting edge solutions, moving libraries forward in the digital age. What does that mean to me? So a few things I thought of were collaborating across physical distances quickly. This is both in something like managing requests in Rapido, but also doing things like collaborating with a professor on our Rome campus to push out a reading list ASAP via Leganto. He was struck out with the bookstore, but we were able to take care of that real quickly for him with our cool tools. Increasing delivery speed and serving with attention to the attention economy. So we're paying attention to how much attention people are paying to us. You got to be quick and clear and easy. Removing friction from interfaces and processes as much as possible. Also increasing transparency in services and meeting expectations, largely driven by experiences people are having with e-commerce sites, and being where users are. And to borrow a business term, by doing so, achieving a lower cost to acquire customers. Moving on from that, we've got embracing open systems, building personalization and dynamic context-specific web services from APIs. We'll look at some examples in a minute. Also, on being where users already are, integrating with learning management systems, and collaborating on course delivery processes. And then one of the most basic elements, but not to be forgotten about moving forward digitally, is actually digitizing things. So digitizing our analog collections for services. And finally, something I didn't put on the slide, but sometimes to move forward, you need to make some changes to systems. So being willing to migrate, having openness and flexibility is a necessity. And this is just a slide showing you what I just talked about, and I can see connections between a lot of these Ex Libris products that we've been using: Rapido, Leganto, Primo, Alma, Developers Network. We're making good use of these tools, and I hope to show you how we're doing that. So the next slide is going to delve into digitizing analog collections. So maybe it's just me, but still when I hear about digitizing analog collections, I think of a student employee in archives scanning aged manuscripts and blowing dust off of documents. Here, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about digitizing analog collections with speed, on demand, to meet the immediate needs of users. We're looking here is some request options that my users can see in Primo. So in Primo, we've got digitization requests set up for our own materials. And then we also have a Rapido offer here at the bottom. So Rapido is the engine for the physical loan offers, which you'll see on the left side of the screen. Get a physical copy, while RapidIL is integrated into Alma and provides the engine for digital offers of chapters and articles, which you'll see over on the right side here. I will talk more about Rapido offers later on. Looking at Leganto now, this is the Leganto reading list functionality for course materials that we use. Here we're looking at searching for a library's resources to add an item. And in this case, a physical copy of the book Moon Palace from the library's holdings. Sorry, I've got a little bit of lag on my slides. Let me try going back and forth. There we go. Sorry about that. This is the next screen in the workflow. So this is a Leganto questions screen where, as you can see, the workflow prompts faculty to tag the item with what they actually want done to it. And here they're requesting to digitize a fair use portion. This is the Leganto tag screen. So you can see once they answer the question, it automatically adds a tag to digitize one chapter. They also have options to add more tags manually. For instance, perhaps this professor wants to supply a personal copy to the circulation desk that's different than the copy we have or something like that, or any of these things they can request from us. And then the digitization request is pushed through in Alma from the reading list citation after staff review and approve the request. When working on lists, it's not uncommon to have student employees pick up and complete these requests in an hour or two. Faculty realize this flexibility and speed is unrivaled, and no offense to the campus bookstore. Okay. On to embracing open systems, AKA, if they come, you will build it. You're probably familiar with the mantra, if you build it, they will come. Well, in our digital services department, we don't necessarily believe that's true for library properties. Instead, are inspired by rearranging the words to, if they come, you will build it. So customer experience councils with students let us know that they thought that we would be more effective if we could place library content in places students and faculty inhabit every day, like the Canvas LMS and the university portal. So we got to know the developers network, particularly our web developer Chad, and built this personalization into our university portal. When the student or faculty member comes to the library page in the portal, they see their library activity called via APIs into Alma and displayed dynamically. That's because in the portal, we know that who's logged in, and we can start doing processes with our application to pull exactly the relevant info. So you can see here, the request, loans, and fines and fees information is coming from Alma. And, we've made use of the developers network for that. And then at the bottom, if we expand one of the courses in the My Course Resources section, we pull in this content dynamically with SpringShare APIs to give students very relevant starting points to their research and awareness of their subject librarians that semester. Along with using the APIs to build things, we also want to be in Canvas and participating in course delivery. So this is more if they come, you will build it territory. And it also has been a good reason for us to partner with instructional designers on course delivery of library content services. So this is library help. We actually developed this before the personalization feeds. This is an application, LTI application actually in Canvas we built, and it dynamically provides relevant starting points like you saw earlier, and also pulls in readings, course readings, a different view of them from Alma, in addition to the SpringShare LibGuides account. You can see the resource list stuff at the bottom there. This was adopted into the default campus course template during the switch to online in the spring of 2020, and has gotten our librarians quite a bit of exposure. And then finally, thankfully, Ex Libris built Leganto. We didn't build this, and it integrates directly into Canvas courses. We market it only within Canvas instead of using the standalone interface, which has necessitated the collaboration with instructional designers, which itself has, the relationship there has led to a better position for our libraries in teaching and learning. You can see a few of the different kinds of content you can deliver in Leganto, an article link here with the Access Online link, and then that goes into our databases, and then also a digitized file here, which can be downloaded or viewed directly in Leganto. The last piece on Leganto is on student savings. This is a page from our annual report showing how much Leganto adoption by faculty has saved our students and demonstrates the impact we're having. Of course, student savings are important, but even more important is what it actually leads to, which is removing a barrier to reading, and it makes students more likely to be engaged with their course content if they don't have to pay for it. Okay, so now I'm moving on to increasing delivery speed and attention to attention. This is where I'm going to go into talking more about Rapido. This is about being user-centered and understanding the processes need to be quick and easy, or they'll be abandoned. So with focusing on Rapido here, I'm going to provide a deeper understanding of the problems we think Rapido solves and its impact on our users and staff. So if we look back a year or two at the position of ILL service at St. Thomas, we had a really good reputation, and we still do, but we thought it could be even better than people imagined. So we were glad to see movement in the resource sharing market. We were really interested in seeing what was available. Looking at our service, we felt it was a bit separate, like it's a last chance bolt-on service, not that greatly integrated into the researcher's flow. It's a separate system and account outside of the main library system for the researcher to deal with. The discovery usually happens elsewhere. That stitching together systems can increase fail points. Demand is kind of handled by other libraries by default without taking advantage of other services that we may have in the system. And just having confusing request options in discovery. Our consortium really suffered from that for a number of years. So you can see the roadblocks to researchers here also are, like we had a discovery default search that was limited to only owned and subscribed materials. We had an expanded search that only included electronic materials. That's not great for all disciplines. We had user interface issues and inconsistent user experience, which turns our users away from us, and a lack of transparency and tracking and borrowing process, which make researching process more mysterious for our researchers. So if we look at the previous system, our UX, discovery, and staffing, like I said, we have multiple accounts, limited discovery, staff silos with task switching between systems, duplicate processes like digitization or picking from shelf in different systems. We had a lack of integration and agility with other library system modules because we were in separate systems. We want to ask ourselves, how do we color in more of the circle for our users and staff? Some of our staff were in the purple, working on the back end, and some of them were in the gray. And with users, when they were in our discovery, they were in the purple, but they have other needs outside of what our discovery was at that time. So they were dealing with finding some stuff in the library and other stuff elsewhere. So sitting down and looking about what we want in our future system, an open platform, utilizing more current technologies. We wanted to leverage data like APIs and communication standards. And we also, just had a desire to push the envelope and show support for increased investment in updated software by a different vendor. As far as automation goes, we want more automation to remove guesswork and wait time, increase the number of unmediated requests while reducing the processing time to get materials to patrons faster. The engine, which leverages holdings and real-time availability data on items. This is what the automation relies on. Improved resource sharing options now in Primo and they're providing information for users which is not normally provided by ILL systems, things like delivery time and length of loan. And just kind of a point that the better integration of resource sharing into user research flows and staff operations puts ILL on a more equal footing with other services and connects various departments in the back end. With the UX, I think I've said this enough already probably, but the UX reflecting current fulfillment expectations, availability tracking and sourcing. We actually consider Rapido a discovery product as much as we do a resource sharing product. It's been a big improvement to our user interface and our user experience, and is part of our effort to provide more relevant flow of information to our users. And then finally, the tighter integration. This is about leveraging the existing work already done in the system. For example, the fulfillment config, our definitive holdings are there, our patron load, and so on. And the idea that if we aren't duplicating back-end work in multiple systems, we can spend more time making improvements to our service in one system. So now we're going to look a little bit deeper at the Rapido interface. So we're development partners for this over the last couple of years. This is a search in our default scope in Primo for a particular known item. You can see in the results list, it's not showing up at the top there. With Rapido, up here above the search results, you'll see didn't find what you're looking for. Click here to expand your search. That's an easy way for the user to go ahead and expand the search to the Rapido index. So this is a view of the Rapido index, and you can see the book there is right at the top. It says, "Get it for me from other libraries." So Rapido, where am I here? Oh, yeah, I wanted to show that you've got an increased results here too. So I had a note to myself to push back for a second. 480 results here, and when you go over to Rapido, you get 825. And you can imagine if you're actually doing a keyword search, the impact that that would have. And obviously, it has had a good impact with the known item search. We include the entire CDI now, whereas before we had only selected collections. So we only had selected collections when expanding discovery beyond our library. Rapido also includes print materials from lenders in your Rapido pods, And this ties discovery together with fulfillment into one seamless research activity. This is what we call an offer in Rapido. This is the Rapido offer built off real-time availability. So Rapido checks both holdings and item availability before it provides the best offer to your patron according to the terms you've configured. This offer is connected to one lender's real item, which is really available. No more sending out strings and waiting to see if they're connecting. Both a loan and a chapter digitization option display for physical books. And like I said earlier, the left one is handled by the Rapido engine and the right one by RapidILL engine. This is a view of my account and fulfillment transparency we've achieved. You see here the order tracking. It's not too dissimilar from what you might see on FedEx or something along those lines. Also, we've got one account now for accessing ILL non-returnables. No more digging around in inboxes or logging into another service to try to find that PDF you requested a couple weeks ago. There's a pretty easy configuration in Rapido. Utilizes the existing Alma resource sharing configuration and infrastructure. So if you're familiar with Alma resource sharing at all, it's very much like that, just with a few extra bells and whistles. There's minimal additional Rapido specific configuration that you need to complete. You need to add members, which is member is analogous to a resource sharing library. So if you're a shop with one library, you'd probably set up one member. If you add more, you may do more. Depends on if you're centralized or decentralized. You want to include participating items. These are simply setting aside which items you want to lend as a resource sharing partner. And it's easy to mark those by location or other metadata. Connect to and participate in pods. Just want to say that working with pods doesn't also eliminate your current rotas. They can work in tandem. So you don't have to give up rotas if you become a Rapido customer. And then Rapido specific borrowing policies like pod priorities, and then default and exceptional borrowing policies. For instance, you could set up a different configuration for different user groups. Maybe for faculty, you want to give them the offer for the longest loan, whereas for students, you want to give them the one that gets here fastest. This is the managing borrowing request screen. I'm just going to go over some of the functionality here. You can dynamically change the view with facets over on the left side. You want to note the labels in the middle visible on each request, as well as in the facets area. It's facetable labels that you put on there. Some of the labels on the request in the middle screen are actually automatically added because of mediation rules that you've set up, while others have been added manually. Also note the overlay at the right side of the screen that allows staff to see more details about a request without having to click through into a request and without losing their place on the borrowing request screen itself. At the top right, you maybe note this Save as a New Set button. You can create custom sets based on facets and labels and navigate straight to your sets from the Rapido menu when you get to your computer at the start of the day and when you get back to it throughout the day. Check your queues. These sets, I should mention, are logical too, so they update dynamically as work is done in the system and as new requests come in. Lending is quite simplified. So I'm going to a lending request. I can easily go to the menu, click download electronic resource, be routed to our Get It screen, which will give us options for accessing, go into the database, download the thing, and ship the item digitally from the same menu. No having to go out to different add-ons, different systems to get your stuff. And a little bit about RapidILL. So this really helps a lot in automation. It's Rapido's engine for article and chapter requests, all integrated into Alma. If you're a Rapido customer and haven't been a RapidILL customer before, all your stuff happens in Alma. You don't actually have to go into RapidILL. What RapidILL brings is a reduction in things that need mediation. So you can send requests out, and if the metadata is full or whatever, you can connect pretty quickly with a partner and they can start turning that around. So it automatically checks your local holdings in open access first, and then routes only to a partner who owns and can lend it. within 24 hours. So there's a 24-hour service commitment and a 12-hour average turnaround time or so. It's really easy to expose the holdings you wish to share via a publishing profile in Alma. And one of the nice benefits, RapidIL is indexed to the year level instead of the title level, so it'll be much more accurate. There's a resource sharing directory that's been a recent addition to Alma. It's a list of Alma institutions that do resource sharing, and it's available to all Alma institutions, not just Rapid institutions, to copy and to use to expand their resource sharing network. Any Alma institution can define their own resource sharing member and then publish to the community zone. And then any Alma institution can also go to the community zone and find members. This eases the peer-to-peer relationship setup. Obviously, you still need to ask the other partner if they want to work together. But this saves a lot of trading information back and forth to set up partners manually. In addition to creating easier peer-to-peer relationships, it's also an opportunity to facilitate reciprocal regional pods. Wrapping this up, we have got some process changes that have come about by all these changes we've had recently, both to our consortium and in Rapido. The pick from shelf list now organizes most access services work for every shift. Borrowing is less of a process of wait and see. We've got no more transiting of branch items to central ILL department for scanning and mailing. And requests meeting certain criteria can be routed to acquisitions for purchase. On the staffing side, all access services staff now contribute to troubleshooting, digitization, and document delivery. The student workers from the CERC and ILL silos merged, and digitization now needs to move from a specialty skill that a few students have to a core skill that all of our students have. And we're still working on that, but we're better than we were a year ago. Spreading responsibility among branches, I found all of ours, we've got 4 libraries here, and they're all resource sharing libraries of their own. And they're able to sustain all their own interlibrary loan materials and activities. It's easier to train and manage when all the work is in one system, and it feels sort of like when we went to Rapido as an extension of what we were already doing, as opposed to having a complete different system that we have to stitch together. Main CERC staff handle the by the book requests, and the ILL program managers handle difficult exceptions and advanced mediation and other administrative tasks. So where are we currently? Well, we have expanded discovery. We have an improved user experience. We've been able to remove silos and access services, strategically address materials budget cuts, and we've got increased patron confidence and satisfaction. And we got the whole circle purple. So we're happy about that. That's all I have for my presentation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that presentation, and everyone keep putting questions in the Q&A and we'll definitely answer them. So moving on to the second section, the future of resource sharing, this discussion. I want to start it off first talking about a topic that I'm very excited about for the future, and one that Greg noted a couple times in his presentation, and that's RapidIL. And I've had a lot of discussions. We've had a lot of presentations recently around controlled digital lending, Rapido, and a lot of folks are like, what's going on with RapidIL? What does the future look like there? So I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about that. So one of the great things about RapidIL recently is the growth. So over the past about 2 years, we've added nearly 200 libraries. So we're now nearing about 550 community members worldwide. A lot of libraries have leaned obviously heavily into resource sharing during the pandemic. And so we've seen a lot of libraries join RapidIL to help support their interlibrary loan services. And a lot of growth in North America, of course, but we've also added some libraries in Latin America, a lot of libraries in Europe, including a large and growing group in the UK, the Middle East, and libraries in Asia Pacific. So a lot of new libraries have joined the platform. Very exciting. And of course, every new library, new area, new country, you get access to new collections. And also it helps us really leverage the technology of the system in terms of providing 24/7 coverage. So the system does advanced load leveling, time zone awareness for routing. And what we've seen over the past few months is that the actual turnaround time of the system overall has been reduced. I think Greg had it at around 12 hours maybe in this presentation. Over the past few months, it's been closer to about 10 hours. And in November, it was about 9.6 hours. So we're seeing that turnaround time get even better. And I also want to talk a little bit about integrations. RapidL is unique in terms of how it integrates with other platforms. We support integrations, as Greg mentioned, Rapido and Alma. We also have someone now that's using RapidL through Koha. And of course, it's integrated with several other important ILA management platforms, Clio, Iliad, Relay, and Tipasa. We are also making other significant investments. This year, we've done a lot to scale support, the implementation process. We've done a number of developments to enhance the platform, including a lot around holdings, copyright settings, and recently we've added additional services such as the Internet Archive. We ran a pilot with them earlier this year. They now are a lending member in Rapid, and as of yesterday, they just passed the 20,000 request mark. They've handled over 20,000 requests in Rapid. So I'm very excited about the future of RapidL to see continued growth. And I think it's never been a better time to join the community. So if you're not a RapidL member and you're interested, definitely reach out. So I wanted to start there. And I think to circle back to Rapido, I want to ask Judith a question and pull her into the discussion. So Judith, when you joined Rapido, are you only borrowing and lending with other Rapido members? What does that sort of network look like? Can you talk a bit about the Rapido network?
Yes, of course. So one thing that I want to say beforehand is that we have 4 core foundations in Rapido. One is the user experience, as Greg showed you, the staff experience, efficiencies, etc. Future looking, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And the 4th pillar is openness, and something that we like to call the resource sharing ecosystem. So Rapido borrowing requests can be filled by Rapido members as well as non-Rapido members. We have very advanced options to set your priorities for borrowing and lending beyond the Rapido scope. One of the questions that I was many times asked was when the first Rapido customer went live, how could he have gone live if it was the only customer using Rapido? Actually, the answer to this is that Rapido knows how to integrate with any system that supports ISO and NCIP. It, of course, integrates with Alma, which also supports the standards. And it's really on our one of our most important roadmaps is to continue to support the networks of your library. We want to see you doing resource sharing with whomever you want to do resource sharing.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. Got a second question for you. Can you talk about Rapido in relation to the WorldShare directory? What are the options for fulfilling requests not covered by Rapido pods or peer-to-peer defined in the system?
Okay, I think it's kind of a connected question, and also Greg touched upon that a little bit. So first of all, we have a shared directory that currently is supported by all of our Alma institutions. And we have more than 2,200 institutions already, maybe more as we speak. And all of these are potential institutions for doing resource sharing, which is fantastic. So again, as Greg mentioned, anyone already on Alma, whoever is here in the audience and wants to be part of that directory, it's actually pretty easy. It just makes your member available. Again, as we're saying, you of course need to communicate that you want to start doing resource sharing, but in terms of defining the system, is pretty much easy. And also, we also even have the option to add you to a pod and work in ways similar to Rapido, not exactly as Rapido with the discovery, etc., but there is this option as well. Beyond that, as you know, we have Rapid as the backbone for document delivery. And we know that of more than 90%, 95% of document delivery requests are fulfilled by via Rapido. And again, with the time frame of less than 24 hours, Mike, you probably know it's around 12, the average is 12 hours. I don't know, but the compromise is 24 hours. So with the directory and also Rapid, and here I want to talk about the future and our future developments, which will enable you, even though you're not part of, you haven't downloaded that partner record through the directory, to see who holds this resource, really to make it as easier as we can, so you can get your users the resources that they're looking for. And I really want to encourage you, if you're part of this ALMA community and you have more questions on this, if you want, please reach out and we'll help you set you up and give you all the information required for this. But the resources are there, both in terms of the numbers of BIP records that we have in the system, in the higher ed platform, and also in terms of the complete, as we like to say, Rapido is includes everything: document delivery, returnables, and all of this community of users that are using different systems.
Great, thanks, Judith. I think we'll go ahead and now move on to our third session. I mean, we could talk about the future of resource sharing all day, but I want to talk about one specific component of the future of resource sharing, and that is controlled digital lending. So I think, Judith, you have a couple slides to share.
Yes, and I hope I have the control. So again, now we're talking about that future pillar, and I want to talk a little bit about controlled digital lending. Now, not only from the resource sharing perspective, but more in general. So a few slides just to, I'll wait to see that my slide moves. Let's see, give it another chance. Okay, here we go. So every time I talk about controlled digital lending, I like to start with this quotation: digital innovations are more of a human science than a computer science. I think that there's probably you've heard, there's a lot of talk about CDL. There are various forums. And actually, one of the things that we've discovered while working on CDL, and we'll talk about what we mean really simplified, is it's something very simple. It's kind of, I don't really understand how we weren't there before. Maybe it's related to us and not to the possibilities of the future of the digital innovations that we have. So let's talk a little bit just to make it, our base for our dialogue here. What is controlled digital lending? So really the easiest way to look at this is that we want to take the physical copy that we have at the library and mimic the restraints of this copy and make available a digital copy that the library has created for this. This means concepts such as own-to-loan ratio. So it means that you can only circulate the number of digital copies that you have in the library. So if you have 3 items in the library and you have a digital copy, it means that at the same time you can only give 3 digital copies, and of course the circulating items are not circulating. So really mimicking the material as it was physical. Including, of course, prevention of redistribution of this material to any other person or any similar thing. But the question behind the CDL is why CDL? And I think the most basic statement here is that we need to let libraries do their vital function to society. So that libraries are lending books to users, and they need to give access to them. If they're not breaking copyright rules, then they should be able to do this. And I think the last 2 years have been proof of this need, so I don't need to go into the COVID situation where this was almost the only way for libraries to give patron services. Of course, we know already that this is also a way to solve other issues such as print disabilities and other type of issues of this sort. There's the issue of the 20th century problem. You know that we have older books that will probably never be digitized. And of course, we want to make them available to our users. Coming from the resource sharing world, so of course I will add this, some additional value to this is the quick lending turnaround. Again, the idea is not to wrongly use the copy, but for example, if we think about resource sharing, if you need to send a book and the book is not available during the shipment process until it's received, until it gets to the user, really, if we could make things easier without breaking any kind of rule, this would be fantastic. There's a big movement of print conservation, so we know that there are collections that we don't want to be seen circulating, and this is really crucial to have the digital copy available, again keeping the loan-to-own ratio. And ecological awareness, again, why having to ship and send stuff when you could provide it in a different way. And really, we're talking about very, very, very small numbers. We're not talking about big numbers of copies. It's something that is the scale of it is really, really minor, but important, crucial. So what are our focus areas? We're working on all of our products. So of course, through course resources and the Alma-D, we have there's already functionality there that provides short-term access to digital copies that you have with a patron waitlist. Again, keeping the own-to-own ratio and not enabling various patrons to keep in a line, in a queue, so they can get the item. Is really interesting. You can read more about this in our documentation. We're now working on general circulation for long-term lending. And again, a lot of, we're focusing on that loan-to-own ratio, and also to mimicking the restrictions of the long term. So if the item can be loaned for 28 days, then this digital copy should lock the item, and also the item should be loaned for 28 days. And in my world of resource sharing in Rapido, we're also working on this development, again, keeping in synchronization all of the systems around you. So if you're sharing a CDL copy that you have through all of the Rapido functionalities, like a pod, where you're saying, I have all of these items that have been CDL'd, I want to make them available. You can provide a CDL copy, but keep the item locked for the period of being shared. So this was really fast. Last I think the last slide that I have is that we have a CDL Advisory Group. Many of our best features have been developed with our community, and actually we're working with a very strong team of people that are helping us see how this evolves. Greg is part of our team here. And just to give you a little bit more of information, we are a big group and we work together, but we also have subgroups that are dealing with different topics such as copyrights, circulation, resource sharing, each on their own area. So I think this was, I believe this was my last slide on CDL. And Greg, since I have you here, maybe we can engage in a little conversation. I wanted to ask you, how do you envision CDL impacting the world of libraries?
Sure. I almost talked without my mute button turned back off, but didn't, thankfully. I'm the king of that. First of all, it will make libraries better able to accommodate people with barriers to reading the printed page, or even people walking into a physical library. So for accessibility reasons, it will have a big impact. Second, I think it'll be a good test run for sharing of ebooks. Some libraries like ours have negotiated licenses, so we have the ability to share some of our ebooks. We don't really have a good way to do it. So I think CDL could pave the way, so to speak. Third, it will allow us to circulate and consume books in different ways, things we may not understand yet. I'm a music junkie, so purchase new LPs and cassettes, and appreciate using the physical medium, but love how they come with the MP3 version and a streaming version if purchased through the Bandcamp platform. This is sort of analogous. Our users will be able to choose the mode of delivery, while libraries can maintain a one-to-one loan-to-own ratio. So those are some ways I could see it impacting us.
So from what I hear from you, I was going to ask you, how do you see your CDL integrated into your institution? But actually, I think you really see this happening. Are you already doing some work on CDL or?
No, I am not, but I'm looking forward to it. You know, I think that we would look for low-hanging fruit first, items that are waiting for mending, items needed for course reserves, maybe even highly circulated books. Not sure whether we could offer digitization on demand or not. And I know that's part of the CDL discussion, is how you present yourself as a lender. I think there'll also be surprises that only occur to us after doing it for a while and working with colleagues. So for example, just on Friday, I met with our university's new accommodation specialist about supporting a course with the Leganto resource list. I found out that her department has a boneyard of around 300 physical books they've digitized for students with needs for accessibility accommodations in past courses. I told her about CDL up and coming and asked if they would be willing to gift those bones to the libraries. And then perhaps we could use those to seed our CDL collection. And it sounds like we'll be able to make a deal.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Should we move to Q&A?
Yeah, let's do that.
Excellent. So we've had a number of questions come through. First question for Greg. I lost it. Oh, here it is. How did Leganto remove barriers to reading and save you money?
Yeah, so it saves students money. Didn't necessarily save us money, but I guess the principle is a student has $60 in their pocket, and they either will buy the textbook at the bookstore, or maybe they'll buy a new pair of pants or something. Well, the urge sometimes is stronger to buy the new pair of pants than it is to buy the textbook. So if we're able to offer that text or something in our Leganto reading list, which is free of charge, no additional charge to the student from our library collections, or we even can go ahead when we see a faculty want something and try to purchase it for use in the course, then the student will be able to engage with the content, and they'll be able to do it while wearing their new pants. So, so they'll, from going from having no likelihood of reading it because they've got the new pants, to being able to do both. You know, I think that easily being able to provide information sources and text and stuff like that for free is something that's going to lead to better engagement with materials.
Excellent. So Judith, you answered this one in the chat, but I'm going to bring it back up because I think it's an important question. Is Rapido supposed to be in place of using TPASA or other allow management platforms?
Yeah, thank you. I really also wrote it pretty shortly. So from the beginning, Rapido was built to replace all of your current existing resource sharing solutions. So Rapido is many things at the same time, as also Greg mentioned it. So it starts from discovery, bringing a lot of value to discovery itself, and it ends up being also managing the borrowing request created by the borrower with this unified experience of for him, making it easier. And it also acts as a broker, finding the right partner for you. So the quick answer, which is the answer I gave in the chat, is yes, it is made to replace your systems. I must say that it really depends. We have other customers that are keeping their other resource sharing tools. There's no, it can be done in parallel, but there's no need. And I will just use this time to say that Rapido covers Rapid ILL. So when you buy Rapido, the Rapid ILL subscription is included there. So there's no, you're not paying for both systems, you're paying for one.
Okay, great. Another one you answered, RapidIL can integrate with WorldShare. I think they mean with Tipasa. Can Rapido integrate with WorldShare as well?
Yeah, okay, so that's a great question also. So we are just coming now at the, first of all, we've wanted to integrate with WorldShare for a very, very long time. And one of the complications, it was the fact that they didn't support the standards. But I have to say here that we really want to work with whomever wants to work with us. It's again, part of our openness pillar. To answer that specific question, we really want to give our first step here is that the board does everything from the Rapido side. So they place their request as you saw what Greg showed you. And if it's not found on the various different ways to find who has it, either to the Rapido pods, to peer-to-peer connections, or any other options that we have there, we'll be able to set, you will be able to set WorldShare as your last resort. So it will be pushed at the end to WorldShare if you want to, if you have that, if you're continuing to pay to WorldShare. So that's happening at the beginning of this year, which is fantastic news. We're happy to have that integration.
That's great. Okay, moving over to some CDL questions. I don't know the answer to this one, so I'm not sure if this is Greg or Judith, but how do you manage digital files that the library has created in response to patrons' requests for a digital copy? Do you keep digital files in Alma-D while linking to the print copy's bibliographic record?
Okay, so first of all, we're just now, that's the work that we're doing with the advisory group. We are thinking about various topologies. Of course, one of the most basic topologies is having Alma-D, and which is tightly connected to your inventory. So we can keep the relationship between the item and the inventory synchronized. So this is first, and looking only at the circulation point of view of things. So the item would be logged if you provide the CDL, etc. All of this functionality. The same when we talk about Rapido. So if the Rapido is doing resource sharing and you have Alma-D and you have you can use Alma-D as your repository for this. We understand that there are many other topologies, and we're working also with the advisory group to understand what are the needs of the community in general and what we can provide. So we don't have all the minor details, but for sure the integration with Alma-D will be supported. We're thinking about other topologies that need to be supported as well.
Excellent. The next two questions are related. Can CDL be used with other types of media other than books and print? What about videos, audiovisual files? So far, the emphasis in CDL has been on print. What about film, video? Are there institutions who are utilizing CDL to make digitized copies of their DVDs or old VHS available to patrons?
So really the practice up until today mostly has been really focused on physical, but there is talk about other, as Greg was mentioning, music, etc. So I think we will see this evolving, and there's a question up there on the copyrights and whether you can do this, you cannot do this. Again, I guess for each resource type, we'll need to give some thought what we're doing here and if we can do it. I like to say, it's a phrase I like to say sometimes, that you do the lending, let the institution do the lending, let us do the controlling part of the CDL. So this is part of our work with the copyrights team to see exactly what we can do, when we can do it. From my understanding, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, the copyright team, our advisory group, said that in terms of all of the, I don't know, the statements, you can do CDL quite freely if you're really locking the item behind you're not circulating it and you're providing the copy to one person as you would do with mimicking the behavior of the physical copy. And it seems that whatever we've read and all of the law seems to support it. So it seems that that's fine.
Okay. Another CDL question, are there best practices when maintaining CDL copies? I'm concerned about interoperability and future access when supporting software changes.
Great question. CDL is a non-ending topic. I think that I think that in that sense, that's a good reason to support the integration of CDL with Almadi, which is created for this and for keeping the copies available. So I think that it will come to the details, but I think that yeah, the question of keeping the files, even though I think there might be, for resource sharing, we might support other types of resource sharing where the file is kept by the institution somewhere. But again, this brings big questions about how to maintain those copies for the future.
Yeah. I think maybe one more CDL question. With Almadi, what kind of, I think the question is what kind of DRM is involved? For instance, prohibiting 100% printing of a loan.
Okay, so currently the current functionality in Almadi is online and you cannot download or copy stuff. So it's just there to view. I think that our first move in this direction would be also to provide for long-term this type of view. Still, you can keep your view for as long as the loan period is available. But really keeping it closed in the world of Almadi and not going beyond it as today, as for your users today, just with the additions of the loan to own ratio and the addition of how long can this copy be kept by the user that's using it, etc.
Great. I want to jump in on a question for us medical libraries. How about DocLine? So I'll answer that one. It's a great question. We get that question all the time. We would love to have integration with DocLine. We've talked with them many times over the years. I think they have some limited ability to develop DocLine to integrate with other systems. So when they're ready, we're happy to do so. I will say that a lot of libraries that use DocLine and have joined Rapid have found that they could get the vast majority of their medical requests fielded through RapidLL. We have a lot of medical libraries around the world with different medical collections. But yeah, it'd be great to have DocLine as part of the community at some point. I think maybe for our last question, because we just have a couple of minutes, there's a couple of questions around the pricing for Rapido and what is the return on that, the Rapido investment. I wonder if we just want to kind of talk just a minute about that. I'm sure, Greg, if you want to tackle the investment and return on investment and the benefits there.
Sure. It's most evident to me in the capacity that staff has with reducing the amount of systems that we're managing, reducing the amount of different students that we have to train. All that sort of stuff has been really, we're way more efficient now, I guess I would say. So there's a return on an investment there. And then, like, I don't know how you measure being able to turn around items in 10 hours as opposed to 2 days, but there's obviously some impact for our users there too.
Okay, excellent. I think we're about at the top of the hour. Should we wrap it up? Okay, I think so. So from my side, thanks everyone for participating in the webinar today. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Judith. Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks, ACRL Choice. And thanks everyone for joining us. Just a really nice discussion, and it was nice to talk with all of you.
Thanks so much, Mike. This is Sabrina from Choice and ACRL. Thanks so much to Greg, Mike, and Judith for taking the time to present today. And thanks to our attendees for your questions and comments. Really informative discussion. I'd like to remind our viewers that we did record today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from Choice and ACRL with a link to the recording. Also, give you a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey. We really appreciate it. Your responses help us improve our presentations. So thanks again to all of you out there for joining us. We hope you learned a little bit from the session, and we hope to see you again in the future on another webinar.